Hello and welcome to Three Questions with. Got my buddy Steve DeVries with us. Steve is a business coach at FocalPoint. Good morning, Steve. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Kevin. Thanks for having me back.
So, Steve, I asked you to come on the show today because I've been seeing your podcast all over LinkedIn. How did this all come about?
So I started this podcast for, a bunch of different reasons. It's called Made in New England. It's all about New England-based businesses and the people who lead them. And so I'm a business and executive coach. I work with these types of businesses all the time. And yet nobody really knows about most of these small businesses, right? We drive by them all the time. And maybe we notice the building, maybe we don't. But there's a lot of cool businesses out there in New England. There's a lot of cool business stories out there. And if you're a business geek like me, it's interesting. So I started this again for a lot of different reasons, but one of them really is just to get those stories out there.
That is nice because I was laughing with you when you said that. Like, we drive through town and you see that company, you're like, they've been there as long as the 30 years I've lived here. For $1 million, what did they do? No idea. I couldn't even guess and stuff. And it's kind of a shame that no one's given them the voice, and that's what you're trying to do is give them the voice.
That's a big part of it. And so as a business and executive coach, I do a lot of business development. So there's a little bit of an element to that, right? There's a networking element to it. I want to make sure that people and businesses know who I am and what I do. But again, it's also about sharing those stories. So maybe the people that I have on become clients, most of them probably not, but you never know, right? Maybe they know somebody that could use some support in their business. So it's been a lot of fun. I love conducting the interviews. I love hearing the stories. And it's also been a little bit of a chuckle when people come on and you can see that they're really hesitant, right? They don't know if I'm for real or not. They don't know what to expect. And so, I tell them from the outset, this is what the podcast is about. These are the kind of questions that I'm going to ask. We're going to share your story. We're going to make it about you. And in the end, if it's something that you like and you want to share it with your network, great. If not, that's fine too. But I'm going to share it with as many people as I can find.
Steve, I'm kind of chuckling with you because, like you, I love hosting podcasts. Don't ask me to be a guest because everything you just said, I just did one recently. The guy's like, oh, we'll just make it up as we go along. Now, at this point in my life, I'm okay with that, but I'm like, what is he going to ask me? I went on a television show with this young kid, and his first question, what's up with your hair? You got really big hair. you know, I mean, just like you're like sitting there laughing and stuff. So again, like you said, sometimes people are a little hesitant, but as you said, if there's something I didn't answer that question right, you hit the record button again. Hi, welcome to Three Questions with. You just start over. So with Steve's reaching out to you, say yes. Because I find when you have those conversations, just something comes up and you're like, I never knew that. I learned something from interviewing you. I didn't know about your industry, or you mentioned a challenge that, what, I see that all the time. And you showed me how you solved that, which made me a better business coach. At least that's what I get out of it, right?
I've seen plenty of situations where I learn from my guests, right? Most recently, I had a guy, entrepreneur. His business was about a year old, and I always ask my guests, what kind of advice do you have for people who might want to do something
Mm.
somewhat similar to you, right? And so in this case, the guy said, it doesn't cost you a lot to do something called prototyping. And that was a new word for me, a new
I've never
concept.
heard
I've
it.
never heard, obviously in the manufacturing world, we know about prototyping,
Yeah.
but he went on to describe a concept called prototyping. I had never heard of it before. I found it really, really interesting. And so if you want to hear more about it, check out my podcast. It's called Made in New England. You'll find it on YouTube. You'll find it on pretty much every single podcast outlet out there. And they're 20 minutes long, and I've received a lot of really good insights from my guests. And so I try and store those little nuggets away myself and use them with my clients when I can.
Steve, I appreciate you taking a few minutes to call to the show. And as always, thanks for being my friend.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on, Kevin.